have sleep apnea. It used to be pretty major.
Okay.
Used to have to actually wear a chin strap because of being a mouth breather and wearing the CPAP and everything else. I've gotten to a point now where I'm just wearing a mouthpiece, but even my variety was like, hey, you can still hear yourself breathing through the mouth quite a bit. So I've tried a lot of different things to try to help regulate that. And that was kind of one of the other things too. Hey, if this is something that can allow me to breathe better with my sleep apnea and everything else, you definitely need to give it a shot. So I've done the chin straps, I've done pretty much everything you can think of to kind of help.
Taking the time to do this, Rick. I really appreciate it. It's through people sharing their stories and their testaments like this that we're going to be able to reach as many people as possible. A lot of people looking at the product or viewing the channel, they'll sometimes think like this is a gimmick or it's a hack or it's something that doesn't really work. It's another fad. So I just really appreciate you taking the time and sharing your story with us. So thanks so much for that.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Let's jump right into it. When was it that you started looking into mouth tape? And when was it that you came across hostage tape?
It was probably about 2 or 3 months ago. I've actually kind of seen the ads. I actually, of course, through different podcasts that I listened to, had really talked about it, kind of the next biohack in a good way. And I thought, well, you know what, I'll look at it. And actually, hostage tape was one of the main ones that they talked about. So I went to the website, did a little bit of research, actually was reading a book on Breathe, of course. And I just got to the point where I said, man, this is, what do I have to lose? Let's give it a shot.
Sweet. Very cool. Do you mind me asking what podcast you heard it on? I'm always curious just to hear who's out there, who's talking about it.
Yeah,
if you can remember.
I'm saying, I know I heard it on Joe Rogan. Actually, even Tim Ferriss had mentioned it too. There were a couple other little snippets. I can't quite remember, but, it's kind of like in a podcast talking about, I started doing this. And
right.
Again, people that you at least respect in that industry where you say, okay, if they're having results, again, what do I have to lose?
Absolutely. Yeah, very cool. It's always neat to hear where people are hearing about it or who's talking about it. I know Rogan's spoken about it a couple times. Andrew Huberman's another big one, a big advocate. Andy Galpin, I believe, is one of the other big gurus out there, and he speaks very highly about mouth taping. Well, that's really cool. What was it that drew you to think, hey, maybe this is something that I need? Did you know that you were a mouth breather, or was it snoring? What were the issues that kind of led you to say, all right, it's been recommended, I trust these guys, and I think this is going to help me?
Well, that's really trying not to get into the rabbit hole. So I have sleep apnea. It used to be pretty major. Used to have to actually wear a chin strap because of being a mouth breather and wearing the CPAP and everything else. I've gotten to a point now where I'm just wearing a mouthpiece, but even my variety was like, hey, you can still hear yourself breathing through the mouth quite a bit. So I've tried a lot of different things to try to help regulate that. And that was kind of one of the other things too. Hey, if this is something that can allow me to, breathe better with my sleep apnea and everything else, we definitely need to give it a shot. So I've done the chin straps. I've done pretty much everything you can think of to kind of help with regards to snoring, sleep apnea, and things like that. So it kind of just was another thing where, hey, again, I need to give something a try because everything else isn't working.
Right. So you didn't have any success with this, with like the CPAP and the chin strap, or was it that it was working, it was just still making like a lot of noise and still mouth breathing?
A little bit of both. There was times where, I had this chin strap on really tight, and I would still mouth breathe. Now, again, it's forcible air and things like that, so I think that had something to do with it. But some of the other things is, so I'm an ex-fighter and stuff, so I've had reconstructive surgery on my nose 3 times. So I knew that I was mouth breathing. I mouth breathe a lot through the day, just out of habit. So again, it was one of those ideas, if this is a tool that can teach me how to breathe through my nose, especially while I'm sleeping and have better sleep, again, I need to give something a try because everything else hasn't been working very well.
Very cool. Very cool. And what did you notice once you started using hostage tape? I believe you mentioned that you were able to get rid of the chin strap. What
Mm-hmm.
else? What else did you notice once you maybe after the first couple nights or the first week or the first month of using it?
A couple of things. So I've always been one of stats. I love stats. I figured, numbers really paint a good story. So
Hmm.
one of the things I noticed through, again, my wearable is that my restorative sleep. So again, REM sleep, deep sleep, things like that. All my numbers went up. My respiratory rate actually surprisingly went down, and my resting heart rate went down. I've always had a pretty low resting heart rate, but I mean, it's gone down by almost 3 beats a minute while I'm sleeping. So
Wow.
again, it just tells my body that I must be relaxing more, right? I'm getting a better quality sleep from it, and I honestly noticed that within, I'd say, the first week
Wow.
of wearing it.
That's really cool. So do you have an app that you're tracking things with? You had mentioned the name. I don't think I'd heard of that one before. So is that like an app that's on your phone or something that you wear? What exactly are you tracking your sleep with?
So I wear a Whoop, and it
Oh, okay.
will it'll
Right.
track all of your sleep and everything else. So all the way from respiratory rate, again, your sleeping zones and things like that. So I'm always looking at that to kind of see how whatever my restorative sleep is and my recovery, that kind of dictates what my workouts are going to be for the next day. So I'm always looking at that first thing in the morning to see what kind of quality sleep that I've been getting.
Right. Very cool. Now, you mentioned that, you went through all the stats there and everything's improving. What did you notice when it went to, I see you're wearing like a kickboxing shirt and you mentioned that you were a fighter. You mentioned that you're still working out. So what have you just noticed? I know for myself personally, when I get a good night's sleep, like my exercise, I try to exercise every day, but it's just that next level when if I've got energy, like you just feel like you're crushing the workout, or whether it's
Great.
a run, you're going that much faster. Have you noticed similar things, or what have you noticed when it comes to like whether it's sparring, with just working out? What have you noticed?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me, and probably the most important, again, especially with my age and everything else, I'm coming off of my 16th surgery, and it was a pretty extensive hip surgery. But my recovery, right, just like you, I'm working out 5 to 6 days a week, but I'm able to maintain that schedule because I'm just getting a much better recovery rate. So it's
Right.
feeling better, not to say you're not sore and tired from day to day, but I'm able to work out 4 days in a row, 5 days in a row, and do high intensity style workouts. But I'm getting that recovery that I need to allow me to do that each day.
Yeah, that's cool. And you mentioned James Nestor's book. When I read that probably 3 years ago, I want to say, before that, I'd always viewed sleep as almost like a waste of time. And I also heard Matthew Walker on Joe Rogan speak at that time. And I always just viewed it as the goal is to sleep as little as possible and still be effective because sleep is just kind of a waste of time. But after reading that, it totally switched everything in my thinking where it's when it comes to recovery, when it comes to rebuilding muscle, damaged muscle, whatever it is, like sleep is so key. And that if I want to be more productive, if I want to work out more, harder, more frequently, like the one key ingredient is a good night's sleep and consistent and 8 hours deep sleep. So just you mentioning that like your recovery is so much better or being able to work out more. That's the thing I feel like a lot of people miss is that they're still in the sleep is a waste of time mentality. Whereas for people who look into it, it's like that's almost your most important 8 hours out of the 24 because it sets the other 16 up for success or almost failure based on how those 8 hours of sleep going. So that's cool you mentioned that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think to further your point is I was the same way. I was that, hey, I'm just going to grind it out. I only need 6 hours or less. I'm fine. And it's really kind of changed how I look at recovery to where sleep is the building block. And again, using the Whoop, if I have really horrible recovery, I completely change the workout so that I'm not working against my body and just understanding that, whatever tools I can use to get better recovery means I can work out harder the next day. So it's kind of that building block of, hey, good sleep equals good recovery, which means you can work out harder. And what things do I need to do day in, day out, at nighttime, in the morning to help do that?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Switching gears a bit, Was there someone close to you? I'm not sure if you're married or if you have kids or family members or even just friends. What was kind of the reaction of the people closest to you when you said, you know what, I'm going to try this new thing. I'm taping my mouth shut at night. I'm just going to see if it works. And the company's called Hostage Tape. What was the reaction to people close to you or a spouse if you have one? What was their reaction?
It was a lot of laughter. It was funny, especially the first couple of nights, because the first couple of nights when I was putting it on, like, hey, you can't watch, right? I'm going to put this on at night. You're not going to be able to see me. Now it's just kind of a funny kind of thing, like, hey, put your tape on, put your tape on. I'm also a coach at one of the local gyms here, and I actually shared my story with them about it. And, you know, a lot of people thought it was funny in the regards of the name Hostage Tape. But the brilliancy behind that is everybody remembered the name, right? Every time I talked about it, like, hey, I looked at that Hostage Tape. Hey, I'm looking at Hostage Tape. So it was funny. It was some good laughs. It's still currently good laughs for my clients, for my family, and things like that. And but again, it's a great sticking point.
Right, absolutely. And when you start sharing some of the results, I mean, it's just undeniable when you start saying, like, hey, I've been able to do this, or like, check out the app, look at the difference. Like, I love that. It's always neat having someone that tracks their sleep and looking at the stats, where it's, some people can dismiss the anecdotal, I feel better, or is it placebo, what is it? But when it's like, no, like, look, here's my sleep before and after, and the results are really undeniable. So, I mean, people laugh, but it's like, you know what? If you want to start sleeping better, start using this stuff, and everything's going to change for you.
Absolutely. Again, I'm a big proponent of stats. Like, I think numbers tell stories, and, you know, sharing mine before Hostage Tape, I think my restorative sleep, again, that's REM sleep and deep sleep combined, was maybe 2.5 hours or less in an entire 8-hour period. And now I'm just under 4 hours every night. So it's
Right.
added, again, almost 2 hours of just restorative sleep, which just statistically alone, looking at it that way, it's like, okay, you know, the placebo effect is definitely gone if the numbers were consistent since I've started.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that's doing one simple, non-intrusive, like, it's not a surgery. I always find the chin straps, I mean, like, you're wrapping it up and then getting it as tight as you can. You feel constricted, but it's so non-intrusive, a little piece of tape, and then just like that, I mean, you're doubling your REM sleep, and just the results that has is really mind-boggling when you start to think about it.
Yep.
Now, for you, we hear a lot of testimonies, and I'm in the same boat where I snored, I was a mouth breather. When I started using Hostage Tape, and when I started, like, taping my mouth shut at night, there was the short-term benefits of, oh, I feel better now. I'm not snoring as much. I feel a bit more alert. And then there were the long-term ones where I was being maybe I was a bit more alert at work, going the extra mile, wasn't getting as groggy in the afternoon, which people started to notice. And we've heard some awesome testimonials from people where it's like, usually they get a little bit groggy in the afternoon, but now they're more energy, and, like, coworkers notice it and other people notice it. Have you noticed similar things where, whether it's late afternoon or whether it's at work, you're just a bit more alert, a bit more attentive, and able to give, like, that extra, maybe even like 5-10%? Have you noticed kind of like those longer term benefits that maybe aren't as, like, short term or obvious, such as, like, snoring or longer REM sleep?
Yeah, I would say there's, I mean, kind of a twofold. One, when I'm tired, right, when I'm really grinding and things like that, especially in the past, you know, I would have those really dark, deep circles and things like that under my eyes. Those have pretty much gone away. But when it comes to, you know, focus with my job and everything else, you know, being up at 5 in the morning and then working till 5 at night is not very uncommon sometimes. And being able to stay focused, not only for that whole 12 hours, but not relying on energy drinks or caffeine and stuff like that throughout the day.
Right.
You know, I might do a stimulant style drink, but by 1-2 o'clock, I don't need it. I cut it off. And I've noticed that's actually probably one of the biggest things is I just don't need or rely as much on caffeine, stimulants, or anything to kind of just keep me, as they would say, going throughout the day. And again, for work or anything that you're doing, if you can stay a little bit more focused, I think everybody benefits from that.
Yeah. Yeah. Being able to cut down on those, whether it's like an energy drink or just that extra coffee in the afternoon. Maybe it's like a sugary snack where you're like, I need a little something just to get me going. I mean, even that, you're reducing the amount of sugar intake, and then that's leading to more healthy things. Or if you're needing a coffee at, let's say it's like 4 in the afternoon or 3 in the afternoon, now that's starting to affect the next night's sleep because now you've got
Yeah.
caffeine in your system. And yeah, just like you did right there, like it's a snowball that
Yep.
once you start being able to get off these things, then it's the next night's sleep is better. Now the next day you're
Yeah.
not needing it either, and I mean you're just taking off from there. It's an avalanche of health that comes from it. So that's
For
really neat.
sure.
That's really neat that you've been able to see that. Have you been able to? You had mentioned you have clients or people at the gym. Have you been able to get anybody using the tape or buying the tape, and did they have similar results, or did they come back to you and say like, "No, this is crazy"? Have you been able to talk anyone into it yet?
Yeah, I've had a couple clients. It's funny because I think I was expecting to struggle like they did. So the first couple of nights, within a couple hours, they're taking the tape off. Then they're making it a little bit longer, and a little bit longer. And I thought I was going to have that same issue. And I just keep telling them like, you're not suffocating. You're just teaching your body how to breathe a little bit differently, in a different way. And once you can relax, trust it. And a couple of people that I've talked to, they still snore a little bit. But to your point, and myself included, I still snore at times, but the severity or the loudness of the snore is
Mm-hmm.
much less, and things like that. So they're coming along very slowly, but they are saying, kind of the anecdotal, I'm starting to feel better. I'm not as groggy, or I'm not getting as tired later in the evening, so I can kind of, hang out with the kids, hang out with the family, and things like that. And again, even if it's just a small percentage of improvement, it's still improvement.
Yeah, absolutely. And just you mentioning the kids, I've got two young boys. One's just about to be 4, the other one's just about to be 2. So I mean, when I'm finished working, that's let's say like 5, 4, whatever it is, 6. Like it's go time and it's daddy
Yeah.
time, and so it's like it's wrestling, it's sports, it's soccer, whatever it is. But I noticed that now I'm not just trying to get through it because I'm exhausted. Now it's like, okay, I can give them full attention. I find it's
Yep.
the energy in the evening. That's the part that I'm most grateful for because then that's time with the fam. It's family. It's not being tired at dinner. It's being able to be there and be present for them, which is just so
Yep.
huge. I mean, that's what makes it all worth it. So, yeah, you mentioned like the kids as well. That's one of the really rewarding parts of it when you're able to see that in the evenings.
For sure. Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. Well, I really want to say thank you so much for this, Rick. We will finish things off there. Thanks so much. Again, it's through people like yourself willing to come on and share your story and share your testimonial that we're able to help as many people as possible. So thank you so much for this. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Anytime. Appreciate it.